The sun was setting behind the tall hospital building, casting long shadows across the parking lot. 8-year-old Sofia Martinez stood very still in the hallway of County Medical Center, her small hand clutching her teddy bear, watching her mother's face crumble like a sandcastle hit by a wave. "Mama?" Sofia whispered, but her mother couldn't answer through her tears. Just 5 minutes earlier, Dr. Wilson had sat them down in his office. Sofia noticed how he kept looking at the papers in his hands instead of at them. Grown-ups did that sometimes when they had to say something hard. "I'm afraid the tests came back positive, Mrs. Martinez," he had said in a quiet voice. "Miguel has stage 3 lymphoma. That's a type of cancer that affects the—" "I know what it is," her mother had cut in. "My father had it." How bad?" Dr. Wilson had explained about treatments and chances and protocols. Sofia didn't understand most of the words, but she understood the numbers he mentioned, big numbers with lots of zeros that made her mother gasp. Now, as they stood in the hallway, Sofia's mother wiped her eyes and took a deep breath. "We should go tell your father the news, honey. He's waiting for us." The walk back to her father's room felt like walking through syrup. Slow, sticky, hard. Sofia peeked into other rooms as they passed. So many people in beds, some with families around them, some all alone. It was strange to think that behind each door was a whole different story, a whole different kind of sadness or hope. Her father was sitting up in bed when they came in. He looked tired, but he smiled when he saw Sofia. His face seemed thinner than it had just a week ago. How had she not noticed that before? "There's my sunshine girl," he said, opening his arms for a hug. Sofia climbed carefully onto the edge of the bed and let him hold her. She could feel his heart beating against her ear, and she made a wish on each beat. "Please get better. Please get better. Please get better." Her mother sat down on the chair beside the bed and took her father's hand. Sofia watched as they talked in low voices, her father's face changing as he learned about his illness. He didn't cry, but something in his eyes dimmed a little, like someone had turned down the brightness. "How much did they say it would cost?" he asked. "Around $150,000 for the full treatment plan. Insurance will only cover a small part." Her father closed his eyes. "We don't have that kind of money." "We'll figure it out," her mother said, but her voice shook. "We always do." Sofia didn't say anything. She was thinking about the piggy bank in her room with the $27.38 she'd saved for a new bike. It wouldn't be enough. Not nearly enough. On the drive home, the car was so quiet Sofia could hear the blinker clicking as they waited at red lights. Outside the window, houses and stores slipped by. Then she spotted something that made her sit up straight, a lemonade stand on the corner of Maple Street. 2 kids were packing up for the day, counting dollar bills. "Mama," Sofia said suddenly, breaking the silence. "Can we stop at the grocery store? I need to get some lemons." Her mother glanced at her in the rearview mirror, confused. "Lemons? Why?" "I have an idea," Sofia said. In her mind, she was already making plans, how to make the sign, where to set up the table, how much to charge. She pictured a jar filling up with dollars, then more dollars, enough to help her dad get the medicine he needed. She didn't know yet how hard it would be, or how many lemons it takes to make a gallon of lemonade, or that some days no one would stop to buy any. She didn't know that the weather would turn bad, or that she'd have to learn about permits and rules. She just knew that her dad needed help, and she had 2 strong hands ready to squeeze every lemon in the world if that's what it took. "Honey," her mother asked again, "what's this idea of yours?" Sofia took a deep breath. "I'm going to sell lemonade," she said, her voice getting stronger with each word. "And I'm going to use the money to make Dad better." Her mother's eyes in the mirror filled with tears again, but this time they weren't just sad tears. There was something else there too, something that looked a little bit like hope. The morning sun had barely peeked over the apartment buildings when Sofia dragged the folding table across the grass. It was heavier than she expected, and one of the legs kept catching on the ground, but she was too determined to ask for help. "Sofia, wait." Her mother called from their second-floor apartment. "Let me help you with that." But Sofia had already made it to the sidewalk. This spot was perfect, right where the walking path from the apartment complex met the public sidewalk. People would have to pass by on their way to the bus stop. Her mother came hurrying down the stairs, still tying her apron. "Honey, I know you're excited, But we need to make the lemonade first. Sophia had been up since 5 o'clock that morning. She couldn't sleep, thinking about her dad in the hospital and all those numbers the doctor had mentioned. $150,000. It seemed impossible, like trying to count all the stars in the sky. Back in their tiny kitchen, Sophia watched as her mother cut lemons in half. "Can I try?" she asked. "Be careful with the knife," her mother said, showing her how to steady the lemon and cut safely. Sophia's first cut was wobbly, but she got better with each lemon. Her small hands worked tirelessly, squeezing each half over the juicer until her fingers ached. When a drop of juice squirted into her eye, she blinked away tears and kept going. "Why don't we just use the powder mix?" her mother suggested, checking the time. She needed to leave for her shift at the diner soon. "No," Sophia said firmly. "Real lemons taste better. People will pay more if it's good." Her mother smiled, a mix of pride and sadness in her eyes. "When did you get so grown up?" By 9 o'clock, Sophia had set up her stand. The table was covered with her Hello Kitty tablecloth, the one she usually saved for tea parties with her stuffed animals. On top sat a pitcher of lemonade, a stack of paper cups, and a jar labeled "For Dad's Medicine." Her sign, painted on the back of a cereal box, read, "Lemonade for Dad's Chemo. $1. Thank you." The morning passed slowly. A few neighbors stopped by, dropping dollars into her jar with kind words and gentle pats on her head. Mrs. Rodriguez from apartment 4C bought a cup but didn't drink it. "For good luck," she said, pressing an extra $5 into Sophia's hand. By lunchtime, Sophia had made only $12. She watched as people hurried past, too busy with their own lives to notice a little girl selling lemonade. Her feet hurt from standing, and the ice in the pitcher had long since melted, making the lemonade lukewarm. "Maybe we should try again tomorrow," her mother suggested when she came to check on her during her lunch break. "No," Sophia said, straightening her sign. "Dad wouldn't give up, so I won't either." The afternoon brought a bit more luck. The mailman bought a cup, and so did the maintenance man who came to fix the broken gate. A group of teenagers pooled their change to buy one cup they all shared, making faces at the tartness, but giving Sophia high fives. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across her little stand, Sophia counted her earnings, $17.50. It wasn't much, not compared to what they needed, but it was a start. "Time to pack up, sunshine," her mother said, coming to help her. "You did great today. Can't we do it again tomorrow?" Sophia asked, carefully putting the money in a Ziploc bag. "Of course, and maybe we can make some cookies to sell too." That night, Sophia visited her father in the hospital. His room was dim and smelled like cleaning products, but his smile lit up when she entered. She proudly handed him the Ziploc bag. "What's this?" he asked, his voice raspy from medication. "I made $17.50 today," Sophia announced. "It's for your medicine." Her father looked at the bag, then at Sophia's mother, who stood in the doorway with tears in her eyes. He swallowed hard before speaking. "Come here," he said, patting the bed beside him. When Sophia climbed up, he hugged her tightly. "You are the bravest, smartest, most wonderful daughter in the whole wide world." Sophia didn't tell him how her back hurt from standing all day, or how some people had walked right past without even looking at her. She didn't mention her worry that $17 was nowhere near enough. Instead, she said, "Tomorrow I'll make even more. Just wait and see." And in her heart, she believed it. 3 weeks had passed since Sophia first set up her lemonade stand. Every day after school, she would rush home, change her clothes, and drag her table to the same spot. Her routine never changed. Check the money jar, arrange the cups, mix fresh lemonade, and wait. Some days were better than others. On Saturdays, she could make almost $30. Rainy days were the worst, sometimes just $5 or $6 for hours of sitting under an umbrella that kept tipping over in the wind. Today was Wednesday, and the sun beat down hard on Sophia's little stand. She had added a beach umbrella borrowed from their neighbor, Mrs. Rodriguez, who had become one of her most loyal customers. Sophia wiped sweat from her forehead and checked her watch. 3 more hours until she needed to pack up. A blue car drove slowly past her stand, then backed up and parked. A woman with curly hair stepped out, carrying a small bag with a camera inside. "Hi there," the woman said, walking toward Sophia. That lemonade looks refreshing. Mind if I buy a cup? $1, please, Sophia said, carefully pouring lemonade over ice. The woman took a sip and smiled. This is delicious. Did you make it yourself? Sophia nodded proudly. I squeeze the lemons every morning. My mom says the secret is adding just a tiny bit of salt. You can't taste it, but it makes the sweet taste sweeter. That's clever, the woman said, glancing at Sophia's sign. So the money is for your dad's treatment. Sophia's smile faded a little. Yes, he has something called lymphoma. That's a kind of cancer. The doctors say he needs special medicine, but it costs more money than we have. The woman introduced herself as Lisa Chen from Channel 8 News. Would it be okay if I asked you a few questions about your lemonade stand? Maybe took some video. Sophia wasn't sure what to say. Her mother had always told her not to talk to strangers, but this lady had a badge with her picture on it. Before she could decide, her mother arrived, carrying a fresh pitcher of lemonade. What's going on here? She asked, looking concerned. Lisa explained that she was a reporter working on local stories. Your daughter's lemonade stand caught my eye. It's not every day you see a child working so hard to help her family. After talking with Lisa for a few minutes, Sophia's mother agreed to the interview. Just a short one, she said. Sophia has homework later. Lisa set up her camera and asked Sophia questions about her dad, the lemonade stand, and how much money she had raised so far. Sophia answered honestly, almost $200. But we need a lot more. Dad's medicine costs more than $100,000. When Lisa asked what kept her going day after day, Sophia thought for a moment. When I was little, littler, and got scared of monsters under my bed, my dad would always check for me, even when he was really tired from work. He never said it was silly or to just go to sleep. He always checked. So now it's my turn to help him. That evening, Sophia and her mother watched themselves on the local news. The story was short, just 3 minutes, but seeing herself on TV made Sophia giggle with excitement. You're famous now, her mother teased, tickling her. What happened next surprised them both. Their phone started ringing. First, it was relatives who had seen the news, then neighbors, then people they didn't even know, asking how they could help. By morning, a line of people stretched from Sophia's lemonade stand all the way around the block. Some had driven from other towns just to buy a cup. Many gave extra money, dropping $5, $10, or even $20 bills into her jar for a single cup of lemonade. A woman who owned a bakery brought Sophia cookies to sell alongside her lemonade. A local print shop delivered a professional banner to replace her hand-painted sign. Someone even brought a small folding chair so she wouldn't have to stand all day. By the end of the week, someone had created a social media page called Lemonade for Miguel. Pictures of Sophia at her stand were being shared thousands of times. People from other states were asking how they could donate. Mom, Sophia whispered one night as they counted the day's earnings. I think it's working. Her mother nodded, tears in her eyes. It is, baby, it really is. In 6 weeks, Sophia's little lemonade stand had raised nearly $8,000. It was amazing progress, but still far short of what they needed for her father's complete treatment plan. What Sophia didn't know was that her story had just reached someone who could change everything. Autumn arrived with a chill in the air and bright orange leaves that crunched under Sophia's sneakers as she walked to her lemonade stand. She had added hot chocolate to her menu, an idea her dad had suggested during her last hospital visit. His hair was gone now, and his cheeks looked hollow, but his eyes still lit up when Sophia told him about her daily sales. People like having something warm to hold when it's cold, he had said, his voice weaker than before. I remember how your mom used to make hot chocolate for us on winter mornings before. He didn't finish, but Sophia knew what he meant. Before he got sick. Before the bills started piling up on the kitchen table. Before her mother started working double shifts at the diner. This morning was especially chilly, and Sophia wore her dad's old sweatshirt over her jacket. It hung down to her knees, but it smelled like him, and that made her feel braver. Her mother had already left for work, leaving a thermos of hot chocolate and a note, "You're my hero. Love, Mom." The first few hours were slow. Only Mrs. Rodriguez and the mailman stopped by, but they each bought hot chocolate and dropped extra money in the jar. By lunchtime, dark clouds had gathered overhead, and a few raindrops splashed on Sophia's sign, making the marker run in blue streaks. She was about to pack up early when a man in a suit approached her stand. He wasn't smiling. "Excuse me," he said, looking at a clipboard. "Are you the person running this establishment?" Sophia nodded, suddenly feeling very small. "Yes, sir. Would you like some hot chocolate?" "It's $2. Lemonade is still $1, but not many people want cold drinks today." The man didn't look at her menu. "I'm from the city health department. We've received a complaint from a local business about your operation here. Are you aware that selling food and beverages requires proper permits?" Sophia didn't understand all the words, but she understood his tone. It was the same tone her teacher used when someone was in trouble. "I'm just selling lemonade," she said quietly, "for my dad's cancer medicine." "I understand, but rules are rules. A food service permit costs $500, plus you'd need a business license and health inspection." He handed her a paper with official-looking stamps on it. "You'll need to cease operations immediately until proper documentation is obtained." Sophia stared at the paper, her eyes filling with tears. $500? But that's... "I'm sorry, young lady. I'm just doing my job." For a moment, the man's face softened. "Look, if you're caught operating without permits, the fine could be much higher. I'm actually doing you a favor by giving you a warning first." Rain began to fall harder as Sophia packed up her stand. The paper from the health department got wet, the ink running like tears down the page. She tried to hurry, but her fingers were cold and clumsy. The jar of money, today's earnings of just $18, slipped from her hands and shattered on the sidewalk. Coins rolled into the gutter while bills turned soggy in the rain. By the time she made it back to their apartment, Sophia was soaked and shivering. She changed into dry clothes and sat on the edge of her bed, looking at the calendar where she had been marking her daily sales. In 2 months, she had raised $8,247. It seemed like so much money when she counted it at night, watching the pile of bills grow. Now it felt like nothing compared to what they needed. That evening, when her mother came home from work, Sophia showed her the wet, crumpled paper from the health department. "Oh, honey," her mother sighed, reading the notice. "I was afraid something like this might happen." "We don't have $500 for a permit," Sophia said. "That's money for Dad's medicine." Her mother pulled her into a hug. "We'll figure something out. Maybe we can sell online instead." But Sophia knew it wouldn't be the same. People liked buying lemonade from her in person. They liked telling her stories about their own families, about other people they knew who had gotten better after having cancer. Sometimes they took pictures with her and her sign. How could all that happen online? That night, for the first time since starting her lemonade stand, Sophia cried herself to sleep. Her hands, still sticky with spilled hot chocolate, clutched her teddy bear tightly as tears soaked her pillow. She didn't know that far away, someone was about to change everything. The Miami sun beat down through the windows of a luxury high-rise condo. Shaquille O'Neal, basketball legend and business mogul, scrolled through his phone as he finished his morning protein shake. His chef had just cleared away breakfast, and he had 30 minutes before his next meeting. Shaq paused on a video in his feed. A little girl with a lemonade stand. Normally he'd keep scrolling, but something made him tap the play button. 8-year-old Sofia Martinez has been selling lemonade every day after school to help pay for her father's cancer treatments, a reporter's voice explained. But yesterday, city officials shut down her stand because she lacks proper permits. The video showed a tiny girl in an oversized sweatshirt, packing up a hand-painted sign in the rain. The camera zoomed in on her face, determined despite the tears welling in her eyes. The required permits would cost $500, the reporter continued, money the Martinez family simply doesn't have to spare. Shaq put down his phone and stared out at the ocean view. Something about the girl's face reminded him of his own daughter when she was that age. That look of fierce love and determination. "Hey Siri, call Tony," he said suddenly. His assistant answered on the first ring. "Morning, boss. You're due at the studio in an hour." "Change of plans," Shaq said. "Find out everything you can about a girl named Sofia Martinez. She's running a lemonade stand for her dad's cancer treatments, and the city shut her down. I need the mayor's number in whatever town she's in. And get the jet ready." On it, Tony replied without hesitation. He was used to his boss's spontaneous missions of kindness. Anything else? Yeah, Shaq added. Call my financial team. I want to set something up for this family. 3 hours later, Shaq was on his private jet, reviewing the information Tony had gathered. Miguel Martinez, diagnosed with stage 3 lymphoma 6 months ago. Insurance covering only a fraction of the costs. Sofia had raised over $8,000 selling lemonade, impressive for a kid, but nowhere near the $150,000 needed for the full treatment plan. Shaq made 2 phone calls during the flight. The first was to the mayor of Sofia's town, who quickly agreed to waive the permit requirements after realizing who was calling. The second was to his foundation director, outlining a plan that made even the normally unflappable director whistle in surprise. You sure about this, boss? That's a significant commitment. I'm sure, Shaq said simply. Sometimes you just know when something's the right move. Meanwhile, Sofia and her mother were packing up the lemonade stand for what they thought would be the last time. School was starting soon anyway, and with the permit issues, they had decided to try online fundraising instead. Maybe we can sell crafts or something, her mother suggested half-heartedly, folding the tablecloth that had seen better days. Sofia nodded, but her heart wasn't in it. The lemonade stand had become more than just a way to raise money. It was her connection to her dad, her way of fighting the monster that was making him sick. Without it, she felt lost. They were carrying the table back toward their apartment when the sound of a vehicle made them turn around. A stretch limousine, longer than any car Sofia had ever seen, pulled slowly into their complex. Its glossy black surface reflected the cloudy sky like a mirror. Who on earth? Her mother began, shielding her eyes to see better. The door opened and a pair of size 22 basketball shoes touched the pavement. Sofia's mouth fell open as the tallest man she had ever seen unfolded himself from the car. She recognized him immediately from the posters in her classmate Denny's bedroom. That's... She couldn't even finish her sentence. Shaquille O'Neal smiled as he approached them, ducking under a low-hanging tree branch. Behind him, news vans began pulling up, cameras already rolling. You must be Sofia, he said, kneeling down to be closer to her level, though he still towered over her. I heard you make the best lemonade in town. Sofia could only nod, speechless for perhaps the first time in her life. Well, I'm really thirsty, Shaq continued, his smile growing wider. Think you could make me a cup? Her mother found her voice first. I'm sorry, Mr. O'Neal, but we've had to shut down. The city says we need permits that cost $500. Shaq winked at Sofia. I think I might have solved that little problem. And please, call me Shaq. All my friends do. He stood up and turned to face the growing crowd. Camera flashes sparkled like stars as he placed one massive hand gently on Sofia's shoulder. I think, he said, loud enough for everyone to hear, that this might be the beginning of something really special. Cameras flashed as Sofia scrambled to set her lemonade stand back up. Her hands trembled with excitement, making the pitcher wobble dangerously. Her mother stepped in to help, still looking shell-shocked at the basketball legend standing in their apartment complex. I've got this, Mom, Sofia whispered, wanting to do this herself. Neighbors poured out of their apartments, cell phones raised to capture the unbelievable scene. Mrs. Rodriguez pushed through the crowd, her curlers still in her hair. Is that really who I think it is? She gasped. Shaq waited patiently as Sofia prepared his lemonade, carefully pouring it over ice cubes. When she handed him the cup, which looked tiny in his massive hands, he took a long, dramatic sip. Mum, he said, closing his eyes. Best lemonade I've ever tasted. No wonder everyone's talking about it. Sofia beamed with pride. The secret is a tiny pinch of salt. My dad taught me that. At the mention of her father, Shaq's playful expression turned serious. He knelt down again, bringing himself closer to Sofia's eye level. Speaking of your dad, he said, I hear he's fighting pretty hard right now. Sofia nodded, her smile fading. The doctors say he needs special medicine that costs more money than all my lemonade sales put together. Well, Shaq said, reaching into his jacket pocket, I've got something that might help with that. The crowd grew silent as he pulled out an envelope and handed it to Sofia's mother. Her hands shook as she opened it, and when she saw what was inside, she gasped and pressed a hand to her mouth. "This," she stammered, "this can't be real." "Oh, it's real," Shaq assured her. "I've already spoken with the hospital. Your husband's treatment is fully covered, every scan, every treatment, every follow-up appointment." Sophia looked from her mother's tearful face to Shaq, trying to understand. "You mean, Dad's going to get his medicine?" "Every bit of it," Shaq confirmed. "But that's just the beginning." He turned to face the cameras that had gathered around them. "Today, I'm proud to announce the launch of Sophia's Lemonade, a new business venture between me and my friend Sophia here." The reporters began shouting questions, but Shaq raised a hand to quiet them. "Starting next week, we're launching a food truck that will travel to events around the city selling Sophia's famous lemonade recipe. And here's the best part, all profits will go toward helping families facing medical bills they can't afford." Sophia's eyes widened. "A real food truck? Like the ones at the fair?" "Even better," Shaq grinned. "This one has your name on it." He nodded to someone in the crowd, and a man stepped forward, unrolling a large poster showing a bright yellow food truck with Sophia's Lemonade painted on the side in big blue letters. "Your lemonade is too good to be kept secret," Shaq continued. "And your heart is too big to help just one family. Together, we're going to help lots of kids' parents get the medicine they need." A woman from the local news pushed forward with a microphone. "Mr. O'Neill, what made you decide to help this particular family?" Shaq looked down at Sophia, who was tracing the picture of the food truck with her finger, her face glowing with wonder. "When I was a kid," he said, "my dad taught me that real strength isn't about how much you can lift or how tall you stand. It's about lifting others when they can't stand on their own." This little girl showed more strength than most adults I know. She didn't wait for someone else to solve her problem. She grabbed some lemons and got to work. He turned to Sophia. "But sometimes even the strongest people need a teammate, and I'd be honored to be yours." Then, to everyone's surprise, Shaq reached into his pocket and pulled out another envelope. "Oh, and one more thing," he said casually, as if he'd almost forgotten. "I'd like to buy this cup of lemonade." He handed the envelope to Sophia. Inside was a check for $50,000. "I think that's a fair price," he said with a wink. "It really is the best lemonade I've ever tasted." Sophia stayed at the check, unable to speak. Then she launched herself forward, wrapping her arms as far as they would go around Shaq's massive frame. "Thank you," she whispered. "No," Shaq said, hugging her gently. "Thank you for showing us all how it's done." 1 year later, the spring sun warmed the crowd gathered outside City Hall. Colorful balloons bobbed in the gentle breeze, and a bright yellow ribbon stretched across the entrance to a brand new yellow food truck. The words "Sophia's Lemonade" gleamed in fresh blue paint, alongside a smiling lemon cartoon character wearing a superhero cape. 9-year-old Sophia Martinez stood before the ribbon, scissors in hand. She wore a yellow dress her grandmother had made specially for today, and her hair was pulled back with a blue ribbon that matched the lettering on the truck. But the most noticeable change was her smile, wider and more carefree than it had been a year ago. Standing beside her was her father, Miguel. Though still thin, color had returned to his face. His hair was growing back in patches, and he leaned slightly on a cane, but his eyes were clear and bright. The doctors had declared him in remission 2 months ago, after his final round of treatment. "Ready, sweetheart?" he asked, placing his free hand on Sophia's shoulder. Sophia nodded, looking out at the crowd that had come to celebrate the opening of the 5th Sophia's Lemonade truck in the state. The first one had been so successful that Shaq had immediately ordered 4 more, each serving a different area. Behind them, a team of workers in bright yellow t-shirts waited to begin serving. Each shirt had the same superhero lemon logo and the words, "When life gives you lemons, make a difference," printed on the back. The mayor stepped forward to the microphone. 1 year ago, a little girl with a big heart taught our city what true courage looks like. Today, we're proud to celebrate not just the recovery of her father, Miguel Martinez, but also the foundation that has helped 15 other families facing medical crisis. Applause rippled through the crowd. Sophia spotted Mrs. Rodriguez waving frantically from the front row. Now wearing one of the yellow t-shirts, she had become the manager of the first lemonade truck. "And now," the mayor continued, I'd like to invite our special guest to say a few words." The crowd parted as Shaquille O'Neal made his way to the front, high-fiving children and posing for quick selfies as he walked. When he reached the microphone, he had to bend down almost comically far to speak into it. "You know," he began, his deep voice carrying easily over the crowd, "my mama always told me that true giants aren't measured by their height, but by the size of their impact. And by that measure, Sofia Martinez might be the biggest giant I've ever met." He winked at Sofia, who giggled and waved back. What started as a simple lemonade stand has now become the Squeeze Out Cancer Foundation, which has raised over $2 million to help families pay for life-saving treatments. He paused as the crowd cheered. "But more important than the money is what Sofia has taught us all, that you're never too small to make a big difference." Sofia stepped up to the microphone, standing on a small box that had been placed there for her. Despite having spoken at several events now, she still felt butterflies in her stomach. "Thank you, Mr. Shaq," she said. "When I first made lemonade for my dad, I was really scared. I thought I needed to make enough money all by myself. But now I know that when people work together, amazing things can happen." She looked at her father, who nodded encouragingly. "My dad always says that when life gives you lemons, you don't just make lemonade, you make a difference. And that's what we're doing, one cup at a time." With that, she cut the ribbon. The crowd erupted in cheers as the truck's window opened and the workers began serving free lemonade to everyone. As people lined up, a local reporter approached Sofia. "Now that your dad is better and the foundation is doing so well, will you still be making lemonade yourself?" Sofia nodded firmly. "Every truck uses my special recipe, and I still squeeze the lemons for the first batch each morning." "Is there a secret ingredient?" the reporter asked. Sofia glanced at her father, who was chatting with Shaq nearby, then back at the reporter. "Love," she said simply. "That's what makes the difference, not just in lemonade, but in everything." Later that evening, as the celebration wound down, Sofia found herself sitting on a bench next to Shaq, sharing a final cup of lemonade. "You know what, Sof?" the basketball star said, looking out at the sunset. "I've won championships, made movies, built businesses, but helping you with this lemonade stand might be the coolest thing I've ever done." Sofia smiled up at him. "And I couldn't have done it without you, Mr. Shaq." "That's where you're wrong, kiddo," he replied, gently bumping her shoulder with his massive elbow. "You were changing the world one cup at a time long before I showed up. I just helped you get a bigger cup."